I would like to introduce Peter Koenig. Peter has been, shall we call you a friend of the house?
If you like.
Okay. That didn't sound so enthusiastic. Okay. Peter is an expert on money. He has been researching on money for the last, I would say, 30 years or so, 31 by now. Every year that we've been working together, I had to add one, so 31 years. And from having lots of cash to no cash at all, and everywhere in between, and then going and researching, so what does money do with us? Because it obviously has something to do with balance and bringing us out of balance, bringing us back into balance. There's an interesting dance there. Because we often believe we can only live our dreams if we have cash. I've started to come to believe that we need to live our dreams so that the cash comes. But you will hear more and similar questions with Peter. And Peter lives in Zurich and lives all over the world due to his work. So welcome back, and I'm looking forward to the next half an hour.
Thank you very much, Matty. Can I see here, thank you for the welcome. Can I see here who, so that I have a sort of clear idea, who's a Chaos pilot here and who's a guest? Can we have the show of hands? Just so we all see, actually. So these are Chaos pilots, and who's a guest here? Oh yeah, we got quite a number of you who are guests. Who are guests here for the first time? Never come across Chaos pilots, Changel's, Matti. Okay, thank you. Well, it's typical of Chaos pilots for me and Matti that I haven't a clue what this 30-minute slot he's given me is going to be about. And I've just come here to discover with you, if you're here for the first time, you're in a process of discovery. And this is actually my understanding of the energy of really what Chaos Pilots is all about. It's about being able to stand up in front of a crowd, not knowing what you're going to do, and somehow making it, or shaking it, or failing it. And whatever you do, it doesn't really matter because you're still alive at the end of it. But I think it's a bit more than that. It's actually helping people to live their lives and their dreams. That's what I understand. And that's where Matti and I and Chaos Pilots meet, because my work has been about exploring, particularly as he mentioned, the subject of money, and the relationship to money, and the relationship to money and making your life dream, materializing your life dream. And looking to see, does your relationship to money help that to happen? Or is it set up in somewhere where it's actually turning out, although it was invented to be a facilitation, it's turning out to be a hindrance in some way or other. And now Matti has come along with this theme of balance. And it's really challenging for me, this theme. So I've been thinking about it all the way driving over, for at least 4 hours. It's really challenging. I tell you why it's really challenging. Because I don't believe in balance. So let's just have a little test here. Who of you here feel balanced with your money? Hands up. Well, a little plug. A little plug now. Having said I don't believe in, in balance, actually I do believe in balance. And if you want to know how to balance your money, I give money seminars, and you can come to me, and I'll help you balance your money. Next one on the 14th, 15th of June in Zurich. But it's not only me. Look at all the books. Geld, money and sustainability. Mine, 30 sharp lies about money. Actually, in English it's just called 30 Lies, but the publisher wants to put in the word Dreist. And new out, do you know Brand 1 magazine? This today, new out, June number, Schwerpunkt Geld, focus on money, das Maß aller Dinge. So, you know, money, some people say the money makes the world go round. It is certainly the communication language of the world. My colleague, Charlie Davis, who has come and given a session here with KaosX last year and does the same work as me, he's trained, says that it actually he was a branding expert, and he says the best brand you have in the world, even better than Facebook, is money. Whoever created money created something ingenious because it's everywhere, you can't get away from it, and everybody seems to know thinks they know what it is, but actually rarely asks the question what it is. So I come back to balance, because this was the challenge and this is the subject. And I was trying to think of my associations with balance. And I immediately came, of course, to the word Bilanz. So you have a balance. Hi. You have a balance sheet. So we're immediately into, when we look into traditional, conventional financial accounting, we are given this illusion, in a sense, of balance. We have the word straight off in balance sheet. But what is a balance sheet? All it means is that you have all the plus, you have all the people with positive bank accounts, and you have all the people, and of course companies as well, with negative bank accounts. And actually, the positive balances the negative. So at the end of the day, you've got a big zero. And a balance sheet for a person is the same thing, as you know, if you know a balance sheet. So actually, a balance sheet just tells you the more numbers you have, the more sort of substance you have. But it really doesn't, I don't think it gives it, does it teach you anything about balance? I don't think it does. It's just a sheet with plus and minus. So I come to the next point I looked at, which was justice, justitia. So then we have this image of the scales, right? Now, look at this image of the scales. How long do the scales, when you have a scale and you put weights on either end, how long do they remain in balance?
Not very long.
Sorry?
Not very long.
No, it's like it goes up and then it goes down, and for a nanosecond it's in balance and then it's out of balance again. My next association was Yin Yang. So there's a sort of balance, but actually it's another kind of balance. It's like a complementarity of a polarity. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have yang without yin. Yin contains the yang contains the yin, but it's not, in my view, it's not the sort of balance that you sort of think about when you're trying to, you know, balance things out either. There's then work-life balance. This is one of my favorites. Has anybody tried work-life balance here? Yes?
Tried, yeah.
Why it's one of my favorites to laugh at is that it implies that you have a work life and you have another life, and somehow you put your other life in, you know, you're meant to try and figure it out to get these two parts. So the assumption is already from the start that you're a schizophrenic. That actually you're already divided in two parts, your private life and your work life, and somehow you're meant to put those two in a sort of balance together, and you're supposed to be a balanced person. So, I mean, and of course, if you try, you can be trying a lot of time, and people selling the courses of work-life balance can make a lot of money, because if you really believe that you will reach it at the end, you can be trying for the rest of your life. So that's another association I have. And I must say, I have two little favorites which talk to me of this subject, which I want to share with you. One is, I don't remember where I got this from, but I work with this little model. And it's not really a model of balance, but it could be as close as you get. It's a model which simply says there's a part of life which is me, I'm talking about focus now. There's a focus which is us, which is me in relationship with you, with one person. Sorry, I made a mistake. The next thing I wanted to put actually with you is you. It's me relationship with you. The next thing is us, which is my focus on community, on my wider community, my work colleagues, my community, non-work colleagues, my associations. And then there's a focus on all of us. And for some, this is like the focus on the collective, the whole collective, the universe, the world, the global, but further than global, and some people call it spiritual. And I adopted this little model many years ago, and I think I've still adopted it. It's still running somewhere in me. And when I like to think of balance, if I think of balance at all, it's like, where am I at the moment putting my focus? And none of these parts of my life, it's just one life, but none of these parts of my life are more important than the other. It's just a matter of what do I choose to focus on right now? What's really, if I go really, really inwards, where is at this very moment, what's most important? What's core at this very moment? Is it actually to go and have a sauna and look after my health and have a good meal? Or is it to put myself into a world congress at the United Nations or somewhere like that and focus on world work? And what I observe is, at least for me, and I think I observe it in other people, that there's kind of if you circulate around these different areas, there's a certain moment where you notice, aha, now I've done enough of focusing on me and studying my navel. It's now time to focus on you and focus on my relationship. So, for example, I relate this to me. The last 3 days, I've been trying. Has anybody heard of the Grundeinkommeninitiative? Yeah. So I don't know if you know, but here in Bern, maybe you were there. They collected 8 million 5-Rappen pieces and had a celebration of the signatures they collected in the Bundesplatz. Was anybody there? Yeah, one person. So there are 8 million 5-Rappen pieces. It was organized by the initiator of this project, who's in Basel, who runs a cafe which used to be a bank, and he had a big safe department. So all these 5-Rappen pieces, 15 tons of 5-Rappen pieces, got moved into his safe in Basel. And for the last 3 days, 3 weeks ago, one of my participants from one of my seminars was taken by another participant from the same seminar who gave her now friend a bath in money, in 5 rappen pieces, in this safe. The small story is that when he came to my seminar, he had inherited around 400,000 Swiss francs, which happens to be about this amount, or $400,000. And actually, he wanted it to go he didn't want to touch it, he wanted it to go straight to his daughters. And I told him if he does that, it'll probably be lost. He'll probably lose it by the time it gets to his daughters, because he needs to receive it fully first. And he finally understood it, that he needs to touch it. And this other participant in the seminar said, look, I'll help you to have a bath in your money. And it turned out that it was not a bath in his money because it was too complicated to get the notes out of his bank. So she took him to have a bath in Basel in the treasury, and they spent 3 hours bathing in 5 rappen things. And, you know, this is completely new to me. Apparently, it's very comfortable. It's very comfortable. And if you lie long enough in them, it's even warm. The metal gets warm. So this is all new research material for me, for my money work. But anyway, for the person who took this gentleman there got so enthusiastic about this that they're in the course of being wrapped up, these 5 rappen pieces, and being sent back to the bank. And she wants to stop this and actually take them somewhere else so that more people can have a bath. And so the last 3 days I've been helping her with this project, which I consider world work. I consider this is in this department because, you know, I think it's fantastic. I can really see the potential of using this money in another way. It's actually self-development work. I mean, we could have them on the ground floor here too.
Please.
Yeah. Give people a bath in Bern. So this is yeah, exactly. So this is like world work, but now, tomorrow, I've just picked up my Wohnmobil. It's just outside, and I feel, you know, that's done now for the moment. Enough world work, and for the next 3 days, I'm going with my partner Barbara, and we're going to the Bodensee and lie in the sun, and the focus is going to be here. Focus is just going to be totally on our relationship. I'm not going to think of 5 rappen pieces or anything else, because that's how it needs to go for me. It needs to be like, aha, I need to focus on my relationship. So that's what for me, this is as close to describing balance in the sense of the relationship to balance and money as I can get with this little model, if it's helpful. I hope it might be helpful for you. So is there anybody like to say anything about that? Or have any questions about that? Yes?
It makes me think a little bit of health. In health, there was a shift from this mechanistic view on our body that if you're sick, you need to fix it, and then you're healthy again or in balance again. Yeah. But actually now it's more and more clear, or many more people see it as there is actually a constant. You cannot consider yourself healthy or so. It's constant a work on keeping in balance.
Yes.
Or keeping health.
Thank you very much, because you're leading to the next view. I said there are 2 views of balance. I have that you're leading right into it, because we think, for example, that when we walk, we're walking balanced. But if you study it in more detail, at any moment, we're actually out of balance. That's why I always also like to say, actually, there isn't such a thing, or if there is, we're most of the time out of balance anyway, and maybe even falling over. And I remember my first ski lesson when I was a little kid. The first thing I learned, maybe you the same, if you ski, the first thing you learn is actually to fall over. Because when you fall over, then you don't get scared of falling over, and then you know, if you're really expert at falling over, then you're probably better in balance. So that's, you know, one of the sort of contradictions and paradoxes I love. But I wanted to move on with that theme and bring it back to money too. Who here has heard of the Hungarian George Soros? One or two, yeah, many of you. So he's a Hungarian philosopher actually, and he called himself a failed philosopher because his ideas of philosophy he was never able to convince anybody of, until he decided to apply it within the financial system. And actually he became famous because he made $1 billion or £1 billion by betting against the pound, speculating against the pound. The pound went down, people say because of his speculations, and he made £1 billion at that time and gained renown. And since then, if you read his autobiography, and he's still at it, he's still trying to get his philosophy through. And the philosophy is the philosophy he uses in the financial markets, and the principle that he calls reflexivity. And reflexivity is, what he means by this is that there is no balance, there is no equilibrium. So what you learn normally in economics, you know, there's a market, and they talk about market in equilibrium. If you speak to George Soros, he says there's no equilibrium in the markets. There's only what he calls dynamic disequilibrium. And I love this concept. So if you think of it, everything is in movement, as you were suggesting, but it's always in disequilibrium. And he has another way of looking at what's going on in the financial markets, but really his message is about applying this to the whole of life. And he wanted to prove something by showing that with money you can make a profit out of this as kind of evidence. But his idea, which I want to share with you, is that we all have an idea of what reality is. And reality, our idea of reality affects reality. So what you think affects reality. Now, there's a dynamic relationship there, because when you think of something, you make something happen. But his suggestion in this is a little bit complex, but I think I love the thought of it. It's like you affect something happening, but what he's suggesting is when your idea of reality and reality are pretty well matching, then there's a kind of stability. However, when what you think of reality is really not in touch at all with reality, what happens is that you create a movement, an unstable movement. You get really into big disequilibrium. And he calls that you create a bubble. You create a bubble. So if your thoughts of reality don't approach, are not close to reality, then you create a wave. And of course, your thought of reality must change again when you see this wave. And he's used this whole idea to actually speculate in the financial markets. And he's made himself a billionaire as a result of it. He calls this for himself the principle of infallibility. So he sees himself, the principle of fallibility. So he sees himself constantly failing. So he sees himself, he starts from the fact that he knows that he's going to fail, in other words, that he's going to fall over, that there's no equilibrium, that there's no balance, and he speculates on that principle. And the fascinating thing is to see that he's made a lot of money out of it. So my time will come up in that's really the impulses I wanted to leave you with, and then take maybe a couple of questions if there's time. I just want to leave you with these impulses, and maybe a third little impulse if we have some people here, because knowing what this subject was going to be tonight, I set the Chaos Pilots teams a little challenge. And that was, I asked them to go out into the streets in Bern, Berlin or Cape Town and to either go out to strangers and ask for money or give money, completely up to their discretion, and to notice what happened with balance when they did this. And the money, that if they got some money, the money is supposed to come to me tonight. So in the time left, we got 5 minutes. First of all, I'd like to ask, before any questions or any other comments, are there any of you here who actually have done this little exercise? Yes? Would you like to share what happened?
The thing is, I intended to really go on and ask for money because I had no money at all in my wallet. Okay, 5 Rappen I had in my wallet. I couldn't withdraw cash, so I needed to get some cash, but then at the train station they were handing out free soft drinks, and that was my intention to go and buy, so there was no need for money. Then I grabbed some of these and was waiting for the next bus, and then was someone coming and asking me for money, and I couldn't give him money, so I could give him an energy drink and a cigarette, and we had a small talk about asking for money and giving money. It was interesting. I still don't have the money.
What about the balance? Did you observe, because the exercise was to observe your relationship to balance and the other person's relationship to balance while there was this dynamic and this question around money. Was there anything you observed?
I'd say through the exchange we had a balance in the way that we could talk about something slightly different than the standard phrase he had to ask every person he was passing by. So we were creating some kind of a
relationship.
It was maybe 40 seconds or whatever, but it was just not a constant, can I have a franc for whatever, and we share a soft
and no money transferred between you?
No, it's just good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Anyone here, where money moved between you? Yes?
Yeah, I had a very interesting experience when I was in Cape Town. My purse disappeared, which meant I had no access to no money at all. And my initial reaction was a sense of, oh, this is great. I don't have to think about money for a few days, but I don't know how long I'll stand it. But I also, at the other side of the spectrum, felt quite helpless. But I knew I needed some money because I had no petrol in the car, I had no food in the house, so I had to think about it. So I used my bicycle more. And I went on my bicycle to 2 or 3 people. I thought, they could be quite nice. And asked them for money, and they looked at me so strange. You thought I was a demon. And I had to kind of say, well, I've never asked you for money before. I'm in need right now. Would you be able to help me? It won't be long and I'll get a new postcard from Switzerland. You know, they're always so efficient. But it took longer to come, so I had to go and ask a second person for some more money. So it was interesting how, on the one hand, I felt in control when I had access to money. And when I no longer had access to money and had to go and ask for it, I didn't feel so in control. I felt a little bit
You felt
shy.
Out of balance.
And out of balance, yes, of course. Yes.
Okay.
So it was very interesting to observe my own relationship to the need to go and ask for something, which I think is crucial for me.
So you felt out of balance, and it sounds like the other person felt out of balance too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone, one further person? Yes?
Well, I had quite a, not really asking for money, but I was also in Cape Town at the biscuit mill. I wanted to drink a cider and had just some coins in my hand, and I went to that guy. I knew it won't be enough. So I came there, asked him whether he's still serving cider. He said, yeah, sure. And I said, yeah, okay, nice. Well, then he looked at me and said, like, Ben, what's the problem? And I said to him, yeah, I only have those coins that I have in my hand, otherwise I have no more money. So he looked at me and said, well, how much is it? And I counted, it's 29 rands. And he said, well, that's fine. And he gave me a full cider instead of 35 rands, just 29 rands.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't feel out of balance,
Okay.
and I didn't feel.
Okay, thank you. So the real answer of this, what I'm hearing is actually the exercise wasn't done. Because the exercise was to go up to strangers and ask them for money or give them money. So one can see this has something to do with the relationship to money. I mean, I've worked with the group already on their relationship to money a bit, but there's still lots more work to be done. So it's a non-ending. Well, it's a continuing. Let's put it not a non-ending, a continuing process. So anybody, I think I've got another minute of time, and this is just an opening impulse. Anybody like to say anything, make any other comment, or have a question before this section of the part of the KaosX is through? Anybody have anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just close. Well, there said that this balanced relationship between humans is additionally with money, is actually a balance that when you give something, then the balance goes on your favor, and you give money, and then something has to happen to bring that balance back. There's an experiment, I guess, people know that they take some address and they send just an invitation to give money. They don't know these people then, and a coupon for a coffee. When they receive this, one with coffee, one without coffee. When they receive the coupon of coffee, they feel engaged already. Like, oh man, I have something back. Yeah, the minimum is that I pay this coffee. So I sent back 5 francs. And the other ones didn't have anything at all, don't have anything back. Some people send, but not regularly. And this is trying to find out this balance that I think you're trying to, well, I understand this balance like this. Like we try to look this balance also with a smile, with an action, with this, at the end, money is one representation of this world as well.
Yeah. So this is the kind of balance that we've been taught. We shouldn't give without getting back, or get without giving back. And the theory is that when we've given back and we get and give, it somehow should balance. Actually, if you look at nature, nature doesn't work that way at all. This is this exchange mechanism is a human invention invented for the Industrial Revolution. If you look at nature, you've got the worm giving to the tree, doing all this work. Does the worm say to the tree, look, I've done all this work, now I want you to give me some shade, please? If you look at nature, nature is working on a total different principle. The worm does its best to be a worm, and the tree does its best to be a tree. So the tree is giving shade and serving all sorts of animals, and the worm is doing its work underneath the ground, just trying to be the best worm it is. And I think the goal of what we really want when we say, we're trying to balance things, is actually we're just trying to be the best worm, or the best tree. Or actually, we come back to chaos, to Angels and Chaos Pilots. Actually, what Matti is trying to do, I believe, and what I'm trying to do with my work is I'm trying to be the best Peter, Matti is trying to be the best Matti, and create a space where everybody you can be the best you. And I think when that happens, if that's possible, then we achieve a state of being which we might call balance. But I think there's a lot to be done, a lot of stuff to get out of the way, like these concepts, which I see every day, which actually, you know, somebody who's always trying to give back because he's received needs to learn an awful lot about what receiving is about. Because a true gift, you know, when you've received a true gift, you're actually giving to the giver by receiving. And there's some magic in that moment which is unexpressible and irreplaceable. And if you're given to and you say, oh, I can't really receive it until I give them back, what you're doing, if that's compulsive, what you're doing is actually throwing the gift back, throwing something back in the giver's face, which is not a gift at all, either to you or to him. And that's actually very much how our society has been constructed in terms of these exchange mechanisms. And I hope that we will swim our way and find our way through that. So thank you for raising that too. And thank you for this opportunity. And as I say, my goal was just to give a couple of impulses here. I'll be around, so if there's more you want to know around the relationship to money and how you might research your own relationship, develop it, I'm very happy to share what I can. Thank you very much. Thank you, Matthew.